Beijing has imposed sanctions on 13 U.S. defense companies and 6 senior executives in response to arms sales to Taiwan, according to a statement from China's foreign ministry. The sanctions, effective from December 5, will freeze the assets of those blacklisted and prohibit them from conducting business with Chinese entities. In addition, the individuals targeted by the sanctions will be barred from entering China. This action is a direct response to U.S. military support for Taiwan, marking a further escalation in the already tense relationship between China and the U.S. over Taiwan. Before examining the specifics of this development and the broader context of Sino-American relations, it's important to first understand the history and dynamics of Taiwan's relationship with China. This issue lies at the core of the current geopolitical tension. Taiwan's indigenous peoples, known as Formosans or native Taiwanese, have a long and rich history that stretches back thousands of years. These Austronesian-speaking communities share cultural and genetic ties with populations across Southeast Asia, the Pacific Islands, and even Madagascar. Among these groups are the Ami, Atayal, and Puyuma, who have preserved vibrant cultural traditions. Today, Taiwan's indigenous population constitutes about 3% of the total population, or roughly 633,000 individuals, although the total number, including unrecognized groups and those of mixed ancestry, may exceed 800,000. Potentially reaching over 1 million. Taiwan's indigenous peoples are considered the original inhabitants of the island, having settled there approximately 15,000 years ago. The island is often regarded as the linguistic birthplace of the Austronesian language family, which includes numerous languages, though many are now endangered or extinct. At one point, there were 26 known Formosan languages, but at least 10 have become extinct, with several others at risk. The first major Chinese influence on Taiwan occurred during the Ming dynasty, 1368 to 1644, when Chinese fishermen, merchants, and farmers began interacting with Taiwan, particularly along the western coast. These early Chinese visitors came mostly from Fujian and Guangdong provinces. Despite this contact, Taiwan remained largely autonomous during this period, with the indigenous Austronesian population still dominant in the island's interior regions. The earliest confirmed Chinese visits to Taiwan date back to the Yuan dynasty, 1271 to 1368. When Han Chinese traders left artifacts such as pottery, indicating early trade relations between the indigenous peoples and mainland China. During the Ming dynasty, these exchanges intensified. In 1430, the famous Ming explorer Zheng He landed on Taiwan and exchanged goods with the indigenous people, including herbal medicines. Following the fall of the Ming dynasty in 1644, Ming loyalist Koxinga, Zheng Chenggong, fled to Taiwan in 1661 and expelled the Dutch colonists, establishing the Kingdom of Tungning. This marked the first significant Chinese governance on the island, initiating the integration of Chinese cultural and administrative practices, although indigenous communities still controlled much of Taiwan's interior due to its difficult terrain and dense forests. In the early 17th century, European powers recognized Taiwan's strategic location and sought to establish a foothold. The Dutch East India Company, VOC, set up a trading post in modern-day Tainan in 1624, naming the island Formosa, meaning beautiful island in Portuguese. The Spanish also established a colony in northern Taiwan near present-day Keelung in 1626. However, by 1642 the Dutch had ousted the Spanish and consolidated control over the island. The Dutch used their presence to facilitate trade with the Ming Empire in China and the Tokugawa shogunate in Japan, as well as to counter the Portuguese and Spanish in East Asia. The influx of Chinese settlers from Fujian and Guangdong provinces grew rapidly, and by the 1660s, the Chinese population in Taiwan reached 30,000 to 50,000. The Spanish also sought to secure a strategic foothold, constructing forts in Keelung and Tamsui. They were focused on missionary activities, trying to convert the indigenous population to Christianity. However, their rule was short-lived, and in 1642 the Dutch captured the Spanish forts, ending their colonial presence on the island. The arrival of European colonizers and Han Chinese settlers had a profound impact on Taiwan's indigenous communities. While the Dutch allied with some indigenous groups, such as the Sainan, to strengthen their control, they also engaged in military conflicts with other indigenous villages that resisted their authority. Similarly, the Spanish missionary efforts led to cultural exchanges, but also to significant disruptions in the traditional ways of life of the island's native peoples. This historical context of Taiwan's indigenous peoples and their relationship with Chinese and foreign powers provides the backdrop for the ongoing tensions between China and Taiwan, which are at the heart of current geopolitical conflicts. In 1661, the renowned Ming loyalist, Koxinga, Zheng Chenggong, launched a decisive military campaign against Dutch colonial forces in Taiwan. A steadfast supporter of the fallen Ming dynasty, Koxinga sought to reclaim Chinese territories from the rising Qing dynasty. By February 1662, after a lengthy 9-month siege of Fort Zeelandia, the Dutch were forced to surrender, paving the way for the establishment of the Kingdom of Tungning on the island of Taiwan. This kingdom, centered in present-day Tainan, quickly became a strategic base for Ming loyalists and resistance forces aiming to overthrow the Qing dynasty. Koxinga's victory in Taiwan marked a pivotal moment in the struggle to preserve the ideals of the fallen Ming Empire. Upon taking control of Taiwan, Koxinga implemented an administrative system that mirrored the structures of the Ming dynasty. He made Fort Zeelandia, renamed as Onping, the capital, and initiated a series of reforms focused on enhancing Taiwan's agriculture, trade, and military defenses. One of the most significant actions of Koxinga's regime was facilitating the migration of thousands of Han Chinese settlers to Taiwan. This influx of Chinese population dramatically transformed the demographic landscape of the island, setting the foundation for the Han Chinese majority that exists in Taiwan today. After Koxinga's death in 1662, his son, Zhengjing, succeeded him as ruler of the Kingdom of Tungning. Like his father, Zhengjing remained dedicated to the Ming cause. He expanded Taiwan's maritime trade networks, establishing economic ties with Japan, Southeast Asia, and European powers, enhancing Taiwan's role as a crucial trading hub in the region. However, the Qing dynasty, eager to consolidate control over former Ming territories, saw the Kingdom of Tungning as a significant threat. In 1683, the Qing dynasty launched a military campaign to seize Taiwan. Under the leadership of Admiral Xu Lang, the Qing navy decisively defeated the forces of Tungning at the Battle of Penghu. This defeat led to the surrender of Tungning's leadership, including Zhengjing's successor, and the eventual incorporation of Taiwan into the Qing Empire, effectively ending the 22-year existence of the Kingdom of Tungning. The Kingdom of Tungning holds immense historical significance as the first predominantly Han Chinese state established in Taiwan. It serves as a symbol of the Ming loyalists' relentless resistance against foreign domination and the Qing dynasty's consolidation of power. The legacy of Tungning continues to resonate deeply in Taiwan's cultural and historical identity, as it marks a key chapter in Taiwan's history of resistance, resilience, and transformation. If you're enjoying the video so far, please take a moment to hit the like button. Your support helps us reach a wider audience. Also, feel free to leave your thoughts and feedback in the comments. We love hearing from you. Thank you for watching, and now let's dive back into the story. Following the Qing dynasty's annexation of Taiwan in 1684, the island was governed as Taiwan Prefecture, a subdivision of Fujian Province. The Qing administration viewed Taiwan primarily as a frontier territory, focusing on security and stability. To this end, they enacted policies aimed at assimilating Han Chinese migrants while suppressing indigenous resistance. Initially, Qing authorities imposed strict controls on Han migration to Taiwan, requiring government permits for settlers and restricting movement outside designated areas. Despite these restrictions, unauthorized migration continued, leading to a dramatic increase in the Han population. By 1811, the number of Han settlers surpassed 2 million, resulting in the expansion of agriculture and the growth of profitable sugar and rice industries. This influx of settlers encroached on indigenous lands, leading to conflicts and tensions. The Qing government categorized indigenous populations into acculturated and non-acculturated groups, implementing policies to manage these relations and suppress uprisings. Notably, the Jigui Rebellion of 1721 and the Linwangwan Rebellion of 1786 were significant uprisings, reflecting the challenges the Qing faced in maintaining control over such a diverse population. Recognizing Taiwan's growing economic importance and strategic value, the Qing government elevated the island's status to a full province in 1887, creating the Fujian Taiwan Province. This reorganization aimed to strengthen administrative oversight and integrate Taiwan more closely into the empire. The provincial capital was established in Taipei, reflecting the island's increasing prominence. Under the leadership of Liu Ming'an, the first governor of Fujian Taiwan Province, significant infrastructure projects were initiated to modernize the island. These included the construction of Taiwan's first railway, telegraph lines, and the introduction of electric lighting, which improved the island's connectivity and economic integration with the mainland. After the Qing dynasty's defeat in the First Sino-Japanese War, the Treaty of Shimonoseki was signed on April 17, 1895, ceding Taiwan and the Pescadores Islands to Japan. This marked the beginning of 50 years of Japanese colonial rule, during which Taiwan underwent significant modernization as Japan sought to transform the island into a model colony. The Japanese colonial administration carried out extensive infrastructure projects, building railways, roads, and ports to facilitate transportation and trade. Public health initiatives, such as establishing hospitals and disease control programs, improved sanitation and health care, leading to a rise in life expectancy. Japan also reformed the education system, introducing formal schooling that emphasized Japanese language and culture. By 1943, primary education became mandatory, resulting in higher literacy rates among the Taiwanese population. Under Japanese rule, Taiwan's economy underwent profound changes. Agriculture became a key focus, with the promotion of cash crops like sugar and rice, making Taiwan one of the world's leading sugar producers by the 1930s. Industrialization also took hold, with the development of mining and manufacturing industries that integrated Taiwan's economy into Japan's imperial framework. However, these economic advancements were accompanied by policies of cultural assimilation. The Kinka movement encouraged the adoption of Japanese names, customs, and Shinto practices, while traditional Taiwanese cultural expressions were suppressed. The use of Japanese in public life was mandated, furthering the assimilation agenda. Indigenous communities faced particularly harsh treatment, with uprisings such as the Tapani incident in 1915 and the Musha incident in 1930 being violently suppressed, resulting in significant casualties. During World War II, Japan intensified its mobilization efforts in Taiwan, recruiting around 200,000 Taiwanese into the Japanese military as soldiers, auxiliaries, translators, medics, and laborers. Over 30,000 Taiwanese military personnel perished during the war. Taiwan's industries were repurposed to support Japan's war efforts, leading to resource shortages and economic hardship for the local population. Japanese rule in Taiwan ended after Japan's surrender in World War II in September 1945. According to General Order No. 1, issued by U.S. General Douglas MacArthur, the island was placed under the control of the Republic of China. This transition marked the end of 5 decades of Japanese colonial rule and the beginning of a new chapter in Taiwan's history. The period of Japanese administration in Taiwan marked a significant chapter in the island's history, characterized by both modernization and economic development. While Japan's rule helped improve infrastructure, industrialization, and education, it was also accompanied by aggressive cultural assimilation policies and the suppression of local resistance. The legacy of this complex era continues to influence Taiwan's cultural and historical identity to this day. Following Japan's surrender in 1945, after the conclusion of World War II, Taiwan was placed under the administrative control of the Republic of China, ROC, led by Chiang Kai-shek. Initially, many Taiwanese people welcomed this transition, expecting to be liberated from decades of Japanese colonial rule. However, the optimism was short-lived. The ROC administration quickly became associated with corruption, mismanagement, and a failure to address the needs of the local population. This widespread dissatisfaction culminated in the February 28, 1947 incident, when government agents confronted a Taiwanese widow accused of selling contraband cigarettes. The situation escalated when the agents struck her, provoking a crowd to gather in protest. In the chaos, an officer opened fire on the crowd, fatally injuring a bystander. The next day, February 28th, protests erupted across the island, with demands for reforms and an end to government corruption. In response, the ROC government, under Governor Chen Yi, declared martial law and sent in military forces to suppress the uprisings. This violent crackdown, known as the February 28th incident, resulted in thousands of Taiwanese civilians being killed, with estimates ranging from 18,000 to 28,000. The incident left a deep scar in Taiwan's collective memory and fueled resentment toward the ROC government, particularly from the native Taiwanese population. In 1949, the Chinese Civil War came to an end, with the Communist Party of China, CPC, establishing the People's Republic of China, PRC, on the mainland. The defeated ROC government, led by Chiang Kai-shek and the nationalist forces, retreated to Taiwan, bringing with them nearly 2 million refugees, including military personnel, government officials, and civilians. This mass influx of people altered Taiwan's demographic makeup and intensified existing ethnic tensions between the local Taiwanese population and the newly arrived mainlanders. The ROC government declared Taipei the temporary capital of China, continuing to claim legitimacy as the government of all of China. This political dynamic laid the foundation for the ongoing complex status of Taiwan in international relations today. Following the establishment of the PRC in 1949, both the PRC and ROC claimed legitimacy as the rightful government of all China, resulting in heightened tensions. This led to the Taiwan Strait crises of the 1950s, during which the PRC launched artillery bombardments on ROC-controlled offshore islands like Quemoy and Matsu, in an effort to erode ROC authority and test U.S. commitments to Taiwan's defense. The United States, in response, intervened militarily to protect Taiwan. deploying the 7th Fleet to the Taiwan Strait and signing the 1955 Formosa Resolution, which authorized U.S. military action to defend Taiwan against armed attacks. These measures solidified the U.S. role as Taiwan's protector during the Cold War era. Despite the persistent political tensions, Taiwan's economic interactions with mainland China have expanded significantly since the late 20th century. Taiwanese businesses have invested heavily in China, with approved investments totaling over $200 billion between 1991 and 2022. This economic engagement has led to millions of Taiwanese working or residing in China, fostering significant cultural exchanges, tourism, and business relationships. However, these interactions are often disrupted by political disputes, reflecting the ongoing complexity of cross-strait relations. For example, in 2021, China imposed a ban on pineapple imports from Taiwan, citing pest concerns. Many perceived this move as politically motivated, a clear example of how economic ties can be used as leverage in the broader political struggle between the two sides. Taiwanese investments in China have fluctuated, with figures showing significant declines in recent years. In 2022, approved investments reached just $3.4 billion, the lowest since 2001, amid rising geopolitical tensions in the region. A critical factor in the Taiwan-China relationship is the role of the United States, which has continued to support Taiwan, especially through arms sales. The U.S. has approved several arms packages to Taiwan, including a significant $385 million package in November 2024. These sales have further complicated the situation, as the PRC views such actions as interference in its internal affairs and a challenge to its sovereignty over Taiwan. The United States' role in the Taiwan-China dynamic, particularly its military support for Taiwan and its ongoing strategic interest in the region, continues to shape the tensions across the Taiwan Strait. The delicate balance of power, political rivalry, and economic interdependence continues to define the intricate relationship between Taiwan, mainland China, and the international community. This includes spare parts and support for F-16 fighter jets and radar systems. The decision has sparked strong objections from Beijing, which views these sales as a violation of its sovereignty and the One China principle. In response, China imposed sanctions on 13 U.S. military companies involved in the arms deal. These companies include Tadine Brown Engineering, Brink Drones, and several others, while also freezing the assets of certain executives and barring their entry into China. The tensions were further escalated by high-profile visits from U.S. officials to Taiwan. A significant example occurred in August 2022, when Nancy Pelosi, then U.S. House Speaker, visited Taiwan. It was the highest-ranking U.S. visit to the island in 25 years. Beijing strongly condemned her trip and conducted large-scale military exercises around Taiwan in retaliation, signaling its readiness to assert its claims over the island. Additionally, Taiwanese leaders' transits through U.S. territory have been contentious. In December 2024, Taiwan's president, Lai Ching-te, made stopovers in Hawaii and Guam during an overseas trip, where he held phone conversations with U.S. congressional leaders, including House Speaker Mike Johnson. Despite these interactions being unofficial, they drew sharp criticism from China, which opposes any official exchanges between U.S. and Taiwanese officials, viewing it as a challenge to its sovereignty. The U.S. military presence in the region has also contributed to rising tensions. Regular naval and air transits through the Taiwan Strait are conducted to assert freedom of navigation in international waters. However, China views these operations as provocative. For example, in November 2024, a U.S. Navy P-8A Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft flew through the Taiwan Strait, prompting China to deploy naval and air forces to monitor and warn the U.S. aircraft, accusing the U.S. of trying to mislead the international community. Recently, the U.S. approved another arms sale to Taiwan, a move that China deems a direct violation of the One China principle and commitments made in previous joint China-U.S. agreements. The Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs emphasized that such actions interfere with China's internal affairs and undermine its sovereignty and territorial integrity. The list of companies sanctioned includes Tadine Brown Engineering, Brink Drones, Rapid Flight, Red 6 Solutions, Shield AI, Synexus, Firestorm Labs, CR Unmanned Aerial Systems, Havoc AAI, Neros Technologies, Cyberlux Corporation, Domo Tactical Communications, and Group W. Notable individuals sanctioned include Barbara Borgonovi and Gerard Huber, senior figures at a Raytheon subsidiary, Charles Woodburn, CEO of BAE Systems Land and Armament, Richard Crawford, a senior executive at a United Technologies unit, Beth Edler, president of Datalink Solutions, and Blake Resnick, CEO of Brink Drones. That concludes our video. Thank you for watching, and we truly appreciate your time with us today. If you enjoyed the content or found it inspiring, please consider liking and subscribing to stay connected with our community. Your support means a lot to us. Be sure to check out another video on our channel, now appearing on the screen.